Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Thursday, July 6, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Julio Capo, and this evening we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in the LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, happening our television network, is a non-profit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ+ community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Let's begin by welcoming anchor Paul Thomas. He is currently the chairman of the LGBTQ+ Advisory Committee to the City of Miami Beach, on the board of directors for the Point Foundation, and on the endorsement committee for SAVE. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, everybody. In the gay agenda, Give Back Mondays at Bona Italian Restaurant. Bona Italian Restaurant, Wilton Manors, will be hosting a Give Back Night for Stonewall National Museum, Archives, and Library on Monday, July 17th. Bona will donate 10% of all dine-in and takeout dinners, delivery excluded. Bona will raffle off $20 for 5 tickets, a gift basket valued at over $100, and that includes a $50 gift card that evening. 100% of the proceeds from the raffle sales go back to Stonewall.
And now, let's welcome anchor Dr. Bobby Huen. He is the certified civil and family mediator and a founder of BH Conflict Resolution Services. Having grown up across the world, he can offer a global perspective on current events. Hey, Bobby.
Hi, Julio. How are you, sweetie? In the gay agenda, new ideas for summer dining from foodrepublic.com. I recently became a writer for that website, foodrepublic.com, and my 2 new articles out this week can help liven up your summer dining. The first article is about the best lettuce wrapping for those who are cutting carbs when making burgers or sandwiches. The second article is about how you can use whole fruits or food rinds to create tasty new containers for your summer cocktails. Make sure to check them out and more at foodrepublic.com.
And now let's welcome Justin Jones. Live and learn is his approach towards life. He works at Miami-Dade County Public Schools. He's a pastor at Powerhouse Church of Miami and owner of the Rafa Center. Hey, Justin.
Hello. In the gay agenda, Wilton Collective mix and mingle with the Imperial Sun Court. Come have fun with the court as they support the Wilton Collective and Julian's Fountain of Youth. Free family-friendly drag show and live entertainment. Cocktails and food and lots of shopping is included. The event is on July 14th from 7 to 9 p.m. Find out more about Julian's Fountain of Youth at jfoy.org.
And now let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro. He's an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame, and he is the author of 9 books. His entertainment coverage, including celebrity interviews, runs in a variety of regional print and online publications. Hey, Gregg.
Hello, everybody, and happy International Kissing Day.
Oh,
Yeah, it is.
In the gay agenda, the release of Wham! The Singles. The Singles Echoes from the Edge of Heaven is a new Wham! Release, which marks the pop band's 40th anniversary. It collects all 10 singles that Wham! Released in the UK and will be available across 5 physical formats, some of which offer B-sides and remixes. The audio has all been newly remastered from the original tapes. This new release coincides with a new documentary called Wham!, which is a feature-length documentary on Netflix that premiered July 5th. Wham! The Singles Echoes from the Edge of Heaven will be released on July 7th.
So much great stuff to look forward to. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, July 6th. Let's begin by queering up trans rights. In Portland, Oregon, area schools fight against Archbishop over trans rights. Hundreds of Portland area families whose children attend Catholic schools are protesting Western Oregon Archbishop Alexander Sample's guidance that schools under the church's umbrella not recognize transgender and non-binary students' pronouns and identities. Sample quietly released the 17-page document of recommendation in January and not a mandate for the 41 archdiocese schools. But as the school year drew to a close, teachers and families said some schools, including St. Rose School in Northeast Portland, began to treat the recommendations as requirements, asking faculty members to pledge that they would uphold them. Rumors began to fly that more schools would be required to follow suit by the next school year, and that teachers who left would not be welcome at other schools in the system. Dozens of students responded by refusing to attend Mass and wearing pins and shirts in support of transgender rights. By the end of the year, many families decided not to return in September. The longtime principals of both All Saints K-8 school and the Madeline School, both located in Northeast Portland, also resigned. If families in liberal Portland begin withdrawing their children because of the guidelines, it will be a significant financial hit for the schools following Sample's steps. So I was raised very Catholic. Like I taught Sunday school. I was an altar server. And like I have to say, some of this hits really hard just for a number of reasons. But I'm just going to pay attention to the last part of the story, that is the resistance part. Yes. All these people who really showed up in support of trans students and gender non-binary students, and who decided, right? Like that is, there's a powerful story here about we get to decide how we treat one another, right? Like that is this is an important part of that story.
It is also now I'm seeking investment ideas to open private schools across Portland to take in all these parochial school students, because seriously, who does that? And also, I mean, don't you want that income, Archdiocese? Well, Your Eminence,
I thought you were going to say Arch Nemesis.
Your Eminence, don't you have sexual assault, settlements to pay for?
Yeah, and they do, and they have a lot, right? Yeah. The best part about that story was that there's less and less enrollment. I still can't figure out why people send their children to those schools.
Right.
Like, how many more kids have to be abused? If you heard about a store down the road that one kid was abused, you'd never let your kids in that store. Why parents keep putting their kids in front of pedophiles.
I mean,
it just blows my mind. All those schools should be closed until they figure out what's going on. They shouldn't even be open.
Talk about
it.
The thing is, though, I mean, when I grew up in Asia, I actually went to a Jesuit school. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not defending them. I mean, hashtag not all priests, but I got a great education. I got a fantastic education in the middle of Hong Kong during the colonial era, not during the communist era, and they were a great school. I got taught very well. No, the priest didn't even look at me sideways. So,
well, once again, a man in a dress with a smoke-emitting handbag, fancy shoes, and expensive jewelry thinks he knows best. And of course, he's dead wrong. And once again, the young students, they're the ones that are leading the way, refusing to follow the hateful rules.
Yeah, so there's a... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no. So I like what you said. It's all about the support of the other students.
Yeah.
When you stand up and you make a statement, I think that's really, really important and impactful. Not just saying, okay, we support you and we're gone, right? Let's do something about it.
Stand up for one another.
The really important part about a public school is that kids get to experience and learn things outside of their home. And why I talk about those private religious schools is that that's not the point. The point of sending your child to school is that they get exposed to things that they wouldn't normally get exposed to, and they learn to live with that, right? And so you kind of harm the child by putting them in an environment where everyone has to think the same, dress the same, they have to wear uniform. They have to. Then when they get in the real world, they're like, oh my God, who are you? I never heard about you. Well, guess what? The world is diverse. It's been diverse. It didn't become diverse. It's always been diverse.
I mean,
get those kids out of there.
It could be worse. They could be homeschooled.
That's even worse.
To Paul's point, and then but one of the more, I think, actually one of the most dangerous of the laws that was passed by the Florida legislature this past session was essentially to help privatize public education.
Which is horrific.
Right? That is
charter schools.
Right, to essentially expand the voucher program, which is mostly going to go to people who could afford, that is like, it's even though everyone is eligible for it, not everyone could pay, it doesn't cover everything. So it's really going to go to a particular segment of the population, and it's going to help fund these kinds of stories,
with our tax dollars.
With our tax dollars.
Which is a big problem.
So, I mean, these kinds of stories, while they begin at the kind of local level, they're going to have massive impact. So we're going to just be seeing the repercussions of this for years to come.
Yeah.
So
keep walking out. Keep walking out.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, let's queer up. Next, let's queer up the courts. Supreme Court upholds previous inclusion of gender dysphoria as protected disability. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court let stand a federal appeals court ruling that found people with gender dysphoria should be protected against discrimination under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas dissented. According to Olivia Hunt, Policy Director for the National Center for Transgender Equality, by declining to hear the case, the Supreme Court implicitly acknowledges that the ADA protects people who experience gender dysphoria, including transgender and non-binary people, from being discriminated against on that basis. The Fourth Circuit was the first federal appellate court to determine that federal disabilities law protects transgender persons who experience anguish because of the disparity between their assigned sex and their gender identity. The decision is only binding in certain states covered by the Fourth Circuit. They are Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. The case began when a transgender woman named Kasha Williams sued the Fairfax County Sheriff in Virginia for her experience in jail. Justice Samuel Alito said that the ruling will raise several important and sensitive questions on participation in women's and girls' sports, the use of traditional pronouns, and sex reassignment therapy by physicians who object on religious and moral grounds. And good, because all those questions should be decided at the opposite opinion by Alito. Now, the Fourth Circuit is not a particularly liberal or conservative circuit. It is, and the fact that it's actually very encouraging for SCOTUS to lead a stand, because that means, and I'm guessing it's partly because of the Gorsuch decision back then that say that, LGBT person is protected class, at least for some things like employment.
Right.
The problem here is that the problem is the last line from, the last thing that Alito mentioned is that would religion trump that? But the thing is, though, Americans Against Disability Act trumps all, almost all.
For sure.
Yeah.
So in secular circumstances, it is highly unlikely that they can prevail and say that I can treat you because I don't like you.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to hear that the U.S. Supreme Court got something right, despite the malevolent machinations of Sam the Sham Alito and dead-eyed Clarence Thomas. It's just terrifying, yeah.
Yeah.
Love your humor, by the way. I look forward to it every time.
Yeah. It's, I believe there was a line in there that you read that said it would bar medical providers from basically doing their jobs, right? From providing care to a patient, that's their job. It's what they're trained to do. And I'm so tired of politicians and crazy judges.
Why are these people so mad and upset about the LGBTQ population?
Because the simple line is they want to impose their morality on you.
But you can't. But that's the problem. I cannot impose my beliefs on anybody else, right? So you have the right to choose. You should have. I don't know.
But
you have the right to believe how you want to believe.
For conservatives, for some conservatives, again, hashtag not all conservatives, freedom for me and not for thee. That's their motto. I have the freedom to scream at you. I have the freedom to assault you.
Christian beliefs
it goes against everything. Like
Well, in America, it goes against being in America, right? You don't have a right to do this to people. And in healthcare, I've worked in healthcare for a long time, and the idea that these politicians can pop up out of nowhere and then affect how doctors treat their patients. I always say to people, doctors in medical school, there's no course for, how to deal with the politician who doesn't agree with your medical science. Right. There isn't a course for that. You only know how to do what you're trained to do. And it puts people in a really, really uncomfortable and really like an illegal position because you're telling them to refuse to care for someone. Now, you and I lived this, right? Remember when AIDS was out and where people would just refuse to take care of you. Right. I thought we learned this lesson, right? Wow. You come in the emergency room, you get treated. You have something wrong with you. You go to the doctor that can take care of you, they take care of you.
That's how it should be.
That's how it should
be. But some doctors,
the politicians, we have to stop these politicians from passing laws that affect medicine altogether.
I like the mention here of HIV/AIDS because it also reminds me, right, of the ADA, which of course protects. And I agree with all, that is to think about how the ADA is going to stand as a really important way of safeguarding so many of our protections because it has historically stood that ground and kind of served that purpose outside of religious freedom.
Right.
So we could kind of look to the ADA as a kind of shield from some of these more...
Now, Justice Hinkle got it right here in the state of Florida a couple of weeks ago where he said, listen, I can't find one medical provider on the planet who doesn't agree with gender-affirming care, right? It's like it doesn't exist in medical science. So these laws and these different things, they shouldn't be happening.
No.
At least the Supreme Court, like you said, they got it right for now, for this moment, for this second. We'll see what happens in an hour. So, next, we're going to queer up. Oh, here we go. Paul's going to get upset. Let me get settled. We're going to queer up politics. North Carolina governor vetoes 3 bills that target transgender youth. North Carolina Democratic Governor Roy Cooper on Wednesday vetoed a trio of bills aimed at LGBTQ+ youth that would ban gender-affirming health care for minors, restrict transgender participation in school sports, and limit classroom introduction about gender identity and sexuality. While LGBTQ+ rights advocates say Cooper's attempt to block the bills demonstrates his support amid what they view as unrelenting attacks from the General Assembly, his veto stamp carries little weight now that the Republicans hold narrow veto-proof majorities in both chambers. His vetoes are not expected to survive override attempts. Cooper denounced the measures as a triple threat of political culture wars that he said would interfere with the ability of doctors and parents to care for vulnerable children whose lives have been thrust into the political spotlight and upended by legislation in dozens of Republican-led states. One of the 3 vetoed bills would bar North Carolina medical professionals from providing hormone therapy, puberty-blocking drugs, and surgical gender transition procedures to anyone under 18, with limited medical exceptions. Although some local LGBTQ+ rights advocates are hoping to convince moderate Republicans to sustain Cooper's veto, others are bracing for a rapid loss of access to the treatments many trans people credit as life-saving. And this kind of piggybacks off of that, except the smoke coming out of my ears, if you can only imagine, right? That this is horrific. That I don't care what the majority, I don't care who these politicians are at all. Like, they shouldn't be, it's not part of the conversation. And one thing that I brought up when abortion, which is still being discussed, but we have a federal law called HIPAA, right? That you have a right to privacy in a healthcare setting. Why these people feel like they should be in the middle of people's doctor's appointments and making medical decisions for them and making medical decisions for the provider. It's like, what are you? You don't have a medical degree. You're not seeing the patient. It's none of your business.
I think this brings up very good points. I think these laws literally contravenes HIPAA because they demand that essentially law enforcement intervene in the treatment of people, especially minors. In other words, if these states expect to enforce these laws, we should arrest enforcers and charge them with federal crimes.
I mean, the Supreme Court is increasingly not finding a right to privacy. I mean, we're kind of in a dangerous moment where the privacy seems to be less. I mean, at least that.
But more to the point, these laws, a federal judge just overturned the same things that happened in Florida. The DeSantis signed it, a federal judge blocked it. And this is going to have the same effect. The one, by the way, I just want to point it out, that so-called supermajority Republicans got is because one of the senators essentially lied, pretend to be a Democrat, got elected, and then literally flipped the minute that she's sworn in.
But in the meantime, while everyone's debating this, people are getting harmed. Patients are not feeling safe. When you come into a healthcare setting, you have to feel safe. You have to know that the person is going to take care of you and give you the best care possible. They're interfering with the medical providers' ability to do their jobs, to go home and sleep at night, to honor their licenses, their degrees, their code of conduct, right? It's just wrong. It's like, enough is enough. We need to end this. We need some federal legislation and just start protecting people.
And more specifically, students, like you were talking about. How do we make sure that our students are protected now? What do we do for the youth? We've had our own challenges coming up, but what do we do to help the next generation now?
Because they're at least, they're vocal, they're active, and they are taking part. But just out of curiosity, does anybody else think that Roy Cooper could be a potential Democratic POTUS candidate if the need should arise? I mean,
I was happy you said that because I don't want to lose that part of the story. Good on you, Governor Cooper, for standing up for, and like that is, even though the veto won't stand, I do think it matters.
Have that voice.
Like that is like,
it matters. It's huge.
I mean, this is exactly, it's not easy to stand up in that kind of space where that the people did not voted for a supermajority in that space. So that is, we see you and we're grateful for you and for being that
fighting.
Voice.
Keep up the good fight.
Well, thank you.
Next, let's queer up business. The Stonewall Inn stopped selling Bud Light over political donations. The bar where police raid sparked the 1969 Stonewall Uprising has revealed why it stopped serving Bud Light. And it has nothing to do with what caused for a boycott over the beer's brand's collaboration with trans influencer Dalen Malvini. Co-owners of New York Stonewall Inn, Stacy Lentz and Kurt Kelly, have revealed that the bar has turned its back on Bud Light's parent company Anheuser-Busch in 2021. At that time, the bar staged a Keep Your Pride campaign, which involved refusing to serve products of companies that claim to be allies of the queer community, but which also donated funds to anti-LGBTQ plus individuals. Lynn said, quote, "The reason we did that was because they were out there waving the rainbow flag very vehemently and turning around and contributing to the anti-LGBT legislators, which can't happen. Our communities are fed up with that," end quote. She also mentioned that Bud Light's collaboration with Mulvaney was an amazing step, and it was a warning for other businesses that have to cater to Gen Z if they wish to last for the next 20 years or 30 years. According to Lentz, the backlash to the collaboration was ridiculous, and the fact that they catered to it was alarming. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So, I actually, this past weekend, I actually got a chance to go to New York and for the Pride event, and I actually stood in front of Stonewall, and I stood there for the parade, and the energy was there. Everybody was marching. I was so excited, and to think about someone that is for me in that moment, to turn their back on me in the next moment is very, very alarming. I don't know how I would react to that, because it's a slap in the face.
I think there are two things here. One, from the marketing standpoint, they know Pride is good business. They know LGBTQ plus and our allies outnumber the people who oppose us. That's why they cater to us. As for legislative donations, I have two minds after this. One, if you're in a deep red state and you don't play ball with those state legislators, they might try to restrict you. I mean, look at it. Ron DeSantis have been using Tallahassee to basically hit back against people that he doesn't like, including corporations. I mean, if you're a corporation, you can play nice. I mean, not everyone's Disney. Not everyone is, going to stand up and basically backhand, DeSantis and Tallahassee.
But don't forget, Disney also didn't have a great record before. That is, not only were they quiet for a long time, we forced them. And they had even donated to campaigns for people who were supporting the Don't Say Gay bill.
But that makes the story even more important, though, because our community has to stop that. And no excuses are accepted. And I really don't care. I'm done. Because, because the thing is, you're wasting your time. If you're going to pay for your own subjugation, then we're not the same. And I tell people this all the time, right? You cannot be playing people's lives are in danger. This is not a political discussion.
Yeah.
You have to realize that people harm themselves.
Yeah.
They harm others. They end up kids get abused at home. They get kicked out of their homes over this stuff.
Denied care.
It's like,
we've read.
Right. There are very, very real world consequences that outweigh money.
For sure.
And so you have to pick a side. I hate the word moderate. You have to pick a side.
Not picking a side.
Right?
Is picking a side.
Is picking a side. And the saying is, right, then you're for the oppressor, right?
Definitely.
If you don't speak up, then you're supporting the oppressor.
Exactly.
And we have to stop. Enough is enough.
AB definitely screwed up big time because they should have just stuck with Dylan. They could have just stuck with Dylan, saying that we support her, the end. And let the crazy shoot the butt like cans, whatever.
It comes down to money, That's
It does.
Well, I'm glad Stonewall did what they did, and I hope that they're gonna, our pride's down here.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. It's like, where are you getting that money from? Where's that money going?
Right.
Why are people staying in that hotel?
Right.
The person that owns that hotel hates gay people.
Right.
They're gonna take your money out of your pocket and put it in Ron DeSantis' pocket.
For sure.
Like, why are you spending your money there?
Right.
We have to really, really
Hold on a second. We have an anti-gay hotel in Fort Lauderdale. Which one?
all over South Florida,
South
all
Beach.
over South Beach, half of South Beach, anti-gay.
No.
But it's great to see the Stonewall in continuing to make history all these years later.
Listen, it was an awesome experience, and I would recommend anybody that is a part of our community to visit there, because it also speaks to the struggles that we had to go through to get where we are today. We went to the pier, and it was just an amazing.
Which doesn't look like the piers when I used to go to the pier. I used to leave Stonewall and go to the pier.
A long time ago. My best friend from college used to live on Christopher Street, just down the road from Stonewall. I mean, he is, yes, of course he's gay, and it's the gayest thing he's ever done, basically. I mean, he lived in West Village on Christopher Street in the 5th floor walk up.
Sounds like a good time.
Now we're gonna queer up the worldview. Greek Prime Minister promises to push for LGBTQ plus rights. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has announced his commitment to legalizing same-sex marriage, making a significant advancement for LGBTQ plus rights in a region where certain conservative governments impose restrictions on the community. In an interview with Bloomberg Television in Athens, Mitsotakis, a center-right politician, affirmed that including same-sex marriage in their strategy is inevitable. He also believed that Greek society has evolved and is now more prepared and progressive on this issue. The Brussels-based non-governmental umbrella organization benchmarks 49 countries on their legal and policy situation for LGBTQ plus people from 0% to 100%. With a ranking of 57% in the latest report, Greece has overtaken countries such as the UK and Germany. In 2021, Greece witnessed a significant shift toward progress in LGBTQ plus rights. The catalyst for this change was the formation of a committee by Mitsotakis to draft a national strategy for this cause. Since then, the Prime Minister has implemented several reforms, such as reversing the ban on homosexual men donating blood and putting an end to the harmful practice of sex-normalizing surgeries on children. Mitsotakis has been a surprising yet commendable advocate for change. Greece granted legal recognition to same-sex civil partnerships in 2015 and recognized gender identity in 2017. Well, talk about being Greek active. If and I haven't been on a plane since 1995, but I don't know, maybe the right amount of sedative might get me on a plane to visit such a historic and important
To
place.
Athens or Mykonos or something.
Sure.
I mean, they're like gay colonies practically to begin with. They all been investigated.
Literally. The politics just catching up. That sex surgery, I'm not sure what that is. I'm gonna have to look that up, but it sounds to me like a type of conversion therapy.
That's what I think it is.
sounded like
I also was confused by that terminology.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing, especially for that part of Europe. As remember where Greece is next to Turkey, and then just above it is Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary.
Bad.
And on that side of Europe, despite a lot of them being members of very liberal EU, they are very, very restrictive of LGBT rights. I mean, Poland, until EU basically put a crackdown on them, have municipalities that declare themselves LGBTQ+.
Except didn't Estonia recently? Yeah.
Estonia did pass same-sex marriage, which is also the first time in the Baltic for anyone to do it. Free Baltics.
That's right. But the geopolitical significance here is major. You're right.
Absolutely.
That is like to imagine there's been almost like this kind of bridge that to imagine or kind
and
of
in terms of international relations, unfortunately, we cannot push too hard on Hungary and Turkey right now because Hungary and Turkey are both blocking Sweden's entry into NATO, and with the war with Ukraine raging on, the problem with pushing Hungary and the Orban regime is that, he can just say, no, Sweden can't join the NATO.
We have to, in the region, they have to start to put pressure on their other neighbors. They have a lot more resources to do that, a lot of import, export, and different trade that they really have to start. I mean, we have to free those people somehow. They can't, in 2023, still be, doing this to other human beings.
Although it's funny because as we read the headlines for what's happening here in Florida, here in the United States, it sure sounds like there are people are going to have to liberate us. Like,
please,
Somebody.
Come on, King Charles. Let's bring it back let's colonize us again.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's queer news headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
And LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up politics. After claiming rainbows were aggressive to her during Pride, MTG says July 1st that God took them back.
Today is July 1st, but all last month was what the left refers to as Pride Month. God-fearing people here and everywhere know the rainbow belongs to God.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, didn't have a very good Pride Month. She claimed that the rainbow flag is a symbol of aggression against her. Since she spends a lot of time in D.C., she couldn't avoid that trigger, complaining that Pride revelers party too late. But on July 1st at a Trump rally in Pickens, South Carolina, Greene told the crowd that the scourge of Pride Month is over and that the rainbow belongs to God. She said, quote, "Today is July 1st, but all last month was what the left refers to as Pride Month. God-fearing people here and everywhere know the rainbows belongs to God." End quote.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up sports. FQSN creates a safe space for queer and femme skaters in Wisconsin. A group of non-traditional skaters on boards and roller skates includes women, femmes, and non-binary and trans people. They meet bi-weekly at Monona Skate Park on Nichols Road, Monona, and at Madison's Goodman Skate Park on South Ingersoll Street. On Mondays and Wednesdays, the FQSN crew welcomes new skaters and cheers each other. FQSN started in 2014 when co-founder Leon C. started inviting a small group of friends to a DIY space in Southeast Madison. Over time, the group changed its name from Lady Skate Night to Femme Skate Night to be inclusive of trans people. Then the name changed to FQSN to include trans masculine and non-binary people. The group is changing the culture in Madison area. Skate parks, but there's still work to do.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. In Hotspots, on stands now, a summer of hot, iconic LGBTQ plus songs starts this weekend. A fresh new issue of the Hotspots magazine is on stands already, so go get your free copy today and get your hands on the hottest songs of the summer. The summer kicked off with hot album releases from Janelle Monáe, Kelly Clarkson, Kim Petras, Kesha, and Ed Sheeran, among others. But the feast is not yet over because Taylor Swift, Rita Ora, Post Malone, K-pop group EXO, and more albums are on their way. July 7th will see the release of I Inside the Old Year Dying by PJ Harvey and Speak Now by Taylor Swift. On July 10th, K-pop stars EXO will release Exist. The list is long and there are releases throughout the month. The new issue has covered it all and more.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up sports. Wimbledon is underway and features a new generation of LGBTQ players. Wimbledon 2023 is officially underway, and there are a handful of out gay players offering some vital rainbow LGBTQ plus representation at the tennis's most prestigious tournament. Since the days of gay champions Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova, women's tennis has long provided some of the biggest LGBTQ names in sports, and there are currently several players on the Women's Tennis Association tour carrying that torch for the new generation. However, sadly, there are currently no out gay players on the men's tour. The LGBTQ plus players competing in this year's Wimbledon include Russia's Daria Castaneda, Argentina's Nadia Podoroska, and Belgium's Greet Menin.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's clear up LGBTQ plus civil rights. Nepal becomes second Asian country to legalize same-sex marriage. The Supreme Court of Nepal ordered the government to register same-sex marriages on Wednesday, June 28th, making the Himalayan nation of 30 million people the second country in Asia where same-sex marriage is legal after Taiwan. The order is the culmination of a 15-year-long battle for equal marriage that began shortly after the country transitioned to democracy in 2007. That year, laws criminalizing sodomy were repealed, and the Supreme Court ordered the new government to change all laws that discriminate against LGBTQ plus people. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. This is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Julio Capo, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, these awesome folks, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Paul Thomas, Dr. Bobby Huen, Justin Jones, and Gregg Shapiro. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ plus world, we see you, and we wish you a good night.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.